140 hours. That's how long I've spent building for this video. Was it worth it? Well, you guys are about to find out. Welcome to episode 1 of my Let's Build Walhampton series, the series that will focus on me building an entire town, a mainly Georgian town located around a river. Now this town is going to be based on some real life examples along the south coast of England, but namely the town of Lymington, which I've spoken about many a time on my channel previously. So I'm going to try and insert as many real life images and examples whenever I've used them throughout this video and also throughout the series. So the series is going to be 10 episodes long. Each is going to be jam-packed with sun, sea and fun. Mainly not the sea or the sun, but we're on a river today, so let's get started by embarking on episode 1. So we're going to start down here on the end of the river, building what will become the Pier station for the town of Walhampton. Now this Pier station was built in 1884 and it was opened as a means to allow larger ferries to come and park up in this river, because as we get on through the video you'll see the river goes up to a quayside. Now the quayside is going to be the other section of this video, and when we get up there you'll notice that the water level is a little bit different, and this is a tidal river, so throughout the day the waters go up and down. I didn't really need to explain how tidal rivers work, but when they do that, that means the larger boats can't get all the way up to the ferry, so a station down here was having to be built because these are passenger ferries. So what they do is they take people to and from the mainland here, which is Whiteburg, out to an area known as Whitesea Island, which is a very large island based on the Isle of Wight mixed with a bit of Cornwall, and we'll see some more of that in my other series I run on this channel, which is the server update tours, where I go around and look at everything that's been done on the server. So once we get onto those, you'll see Whitesea Island in all its glory, but this is the main place that people will embark on, and the railway line here goes all the way up to the capital city, which is Whiteburg City. Now in episode 2 I'm going to be showing you guys what the station for Walhampton will look like. It's a beautiful Gothic station built in 1856 and I can't wait to build that one for you. But there we have it, that is the Pier station already finished up. It's time for us to move on up towards the stations and towards the actual main town itself. So building up the railway line was quite a task. As you can see, the landscaping around here was required quite heavily. Now this is something I've been doing a lot on the server recently. As you can see as well, there's loads of gradients going on in the ground, and we've got lots more to add in here. So this main railway bridge was added in as a sort of cheap alternative to get across the river here. Now they were going to make it so the railway line went around the other side of the river, but unfortunately the landowners wouldn't set up, so it had to come straight across the pier here, causing a little bit of issues later on with the silting up of the river, and maybe actually helping the ferry company become a bit more profitable down on their new pier station, but who knows. So the bridge here is a beautiful iron girder bridge with a couple of supports through the middle, and no more sort of small boats can get up through here at high tide. You'll see the water level in a bit. So the real life inspiration for this one was found in Lymington as well. I've made it slightly larger and also a bit more curved, but as you can see on screen now, the real one is very low to actually the water level, so it carries across there, and that takes trains still to this day. They're still operating across that South Western Railways are the ones currently running on there. So this is now giving us a little link between that side of the river and this side, but this isn't for passengers to use as a sort of normal road bridge. We'll build that in episode 2 when we build Toll Bridge, which is a little bit further up the river. So it's time now to fill in the actual harbour itself and start work on a strange little building. So when I was doing my research into this project, I discovered that in real life across the quayside from the Lymington Quay, there was a place known as a Palace of Entertainment. Now, that's what it was originally built as, and it's kind of like a theatre mixed with a gentleman's club type thing. I know what you're thinking there. But in the later years, after that sort of flopped and no one was going to it, it was turned into a laundrette. And then even later after that, I think it wasn't demolished until the 90s, but it became a engineering works. So this was built in around about 1830 when Lymington was trying to become a spa town, and it's the same for Walhampton here. So this is a strange little building that we are now operating as a laundrette on this side of the river, and I just thought this was a great little spot to start off before we move on in to the main town itself, because we're going to come back here to this area in episode 10 to build Pywell House and the estate round there, which currently comes off from that little road that you saw a second ago. So moving in now to the main town itself. So this is the quayside, and what I'm building now is the jetty for where the ferries will come up, and as I was saying earlier on, they can't park there throughout the whole day. So there was a lot of planning involved in this project, and I had to go through and add sort of many different buildings on the ground already in wall. I was using angles such as 2 block and 3 block angles just to try and make it work up against the edge edge of the river, because I didn't want to make this town too square. I don't want to start off just by making 90-degree angles. I wanted to give it some organic life, and the buildings around the quayside here are a testimony to what you can do when you start building at angles. When I started off doing it, which were these buildings here, as you can see on screen, these are my first diagonal buildings for a very long time. They weren't the best, but throughout the video and throughout this project, I felt like my skills were improving with 2-block angles and even 3-block angles. I don't actually like 3-block angles at all. So on screen now, you're seeing the custom house being built. This is one of the main feature pieces for Walhampton's quayside. This is where they take all of the goods that come in internationally and they process it through this building to make sure it's paying its taxes properly. So what I did, I designed this area so it was actually like its own individual port. It had fences and gates up around each side to make sure no one could come in here and steal stuff, because this is the main import tax for the area and it's a very good bit of money spending for Walhampton itself. So a quayside isn't going to be complete without building a number of warehouses and also smaller industries around here. Walhampton is known for its shipbuilding, and I'll be building you guys a shipyard in just a bit. But first of all, we've got to put in some beautiful little buildings along here, these nice industrial feeling buildings. So I wanted to go for a few from real life. So this one you're seeing now is from Lymington again, and I don't know what it was originally, it's just a nice house, but for me here, it's the shipwright's house, the main master builder who lives just up the road from where the shipyard will be. There's all sorts of little strange eclectic buildings and diagonals I've put in here that I thought would just give it quite a nice bit of life to the area. And yeah, you can just see how it's all starting to grow up like that. You've got these more warehouses here and a couple more going in as well. So what gave me the inspiration for this was just looking at places such as Poole, Lymington and even Plymouth for some ideas on this one, because Lymington doesn't actually have any of these buildings still existing. If you look on the screen now, you'll see an image of what the quayside at Lymington used to look like in around about the turn of the 20th century. Nothing what it looks like today, as all those buildings have been demolished and it's now just a car park. And what was an interesting thing while researching this as well, I discovered that Lymington had a power station that wasn't demolished until the 50s. So I'm making my own one up on the spot here, but it was actually sort of based on an idea of what a late Victorian power station would look like, because I think theirs was opened in 1884. So we're coming on now to building the shipyard for Walhampton. This is a good money spinner for them, as they only build private yachts here for the upper class sort of dignitaries who like to spend a lot of money on boats. So this is the first time I've done anything properly industrial, so building these little sheds I thought were quite a cool little touch, as they gave that nice industrial feel. Blackstone is probably my favourite block at the moment, especially because it can just be used to give it a nice polished or painted steel effect. So people ask me quite a lot like for advice on how to plan out towns, and as you can see, I've gone through, like I said, and put in lots of different coloured bits of wall around the place. In doing so, I didn't actually know what buildings were going to go on there until I sort of came across the area while building and went, ooh, that might look good as a random warehouse or a random townhouse there. And I think that's probably the best way for you guys to start. Just get some shapes on the ground, and then you'll finally sort of figure out what you want to go where, especially when you've got some angles involved, because it's not the easiest to sort of pictureize what a real life building would look like in the game at an angle. So we're starting on here, another road in town. So this is Nelson's Lane, which will boast some beautiful townhouses later on in the video. And I've gone through here and given a nice slow gradient going up there using both slabs and full blocks. And it goes from a cobbled street up to a nice dirt road. Now dirt roads are going to be very popular throughout Walhampton, so keep an eye out how I do those sort of gradients between the two. So building one of my sort of favourite houses in town, this is Scott's house, mainly named after an explorer who left here in 1760. I believe he was born on the site, but then the building was knocked down and this other one was built. It's a lovely big Georgian house. It's got two sort of piles to which are the main rooms in there with the two chimneys, and a really beautiful garden with a view across the harbour. So moving up to Nelson's Lane, this is where the probably richer merchants live, or just people who like to live around the quayside, because we got some working class homes going in as well. As you can see, there's skinny plots, but these ones here, these big villas, are huge. Now these have been built sort of in the late Georgian time, around about 1820, as they sort of go along a bit more of an Italianate style rather than the traditional Georgian style, which is the roofs hiding behind a parapet. So these ones again are slightly based off ones in Lymington, but they're not actually real. they kind of just are my imaginations of what they would look like, including the back gardens as well, which I went, oh, these houses could do with some bay windows as such. Now we're moving on to probably one of the main largest buildings in town so far. This is the headquarters of a secret society known as the Church de Pie. If you watch the channel, you probably already know who they are and that they worship a pineapple. So yeah, that's that one. But the building I wanted to give them was this really nice, grand Georgian house that I kind of just made up on the spot. I went, right, I want 5 windows across like this. I want it to be huge. I want it to be symmetrical, and I want it to have some beautiful proportions to it. So I've even added in that sort of window tax where I've blocked up some windows, and around the back here, I've added in a large bay windowed section with some more windows looking over the long garden. So this building here is on a huge plot, and I've even brought in one of my country house estate sort of ready walled gardens there to put in to give it a bit more detail. When wanting to sort of study what buildings I would put down Nelson's Lane, I looked to the real life examples of Nelson's Place, which is again another road in Lymington. You seeing a theme here? I don't know if I am. So what I was doing was wanting to go for a nice selection of eclectic townhouses that didn't look too fancy, but also gave you that sort of impression of them being quite higher class, working class people, if that makes sense. So that's what I went for here, these lovely selection of just random, different height, different style, different colours of townhouses. The one on the corner, the final one I built, is actually the smallest building in Walhampton and possibly the smallest building in Whiteburg currently, as it only has a tiny little space. The front's so much bigger than the back. But talking about back gardens are key to making your town feel real. Going through here, I added in so much detail in these back gardens, even though they are just sitting there on bits of dirt. There's a few little pathways and a few little sort of sneaky bits I'm going to show off in my later video, Exploring Walhampton, where I take a guest around with me to show them what's been built recently. So keep an eye out for that coming soon on the channel as well. So now we're going to start off down what I like to call Quay Street. This is a selection, a parade if you will, of shops, warehouses and townhouses / hotels that have popped up along here over the centuries. When I mentioned earlier on it's mainly Georgian, these buildings are definitely that epitome of just Georgian shops. Very flat faced but still have that nice elegance about them. And building them up, I went for a selection of buildings from, again, Lymington, mainly Plymouth. I will do some more stuff with Plymouth later on in my building career. The town of Sutton that I've sort of put around before in people's heads will be based on that, but I found some ones there that really suited what I wanted to go for here. In Lymington, around this area, these buildings don't exist. There were a few buildings here. I've got some pictures on screen now to show you what it used to look like as well, this view, but it doesn't look like how I wanted it in my head. I wanted some larger, grander buildings sitting there, like a hotel and that sort of thing. Now we're moving on to some of the final parts of the build. This is Quay Hill and Quay Street, featuring no more than 10 pubs. I should say no less than 10 pubs along here. And this is what you kind of expect when you're building an English town. Pubs on every corner. So when those sailors get off those boats, before they stagger on up the high street, which is what that red line is going off into the distance, they have to pass through this area. And so people went, hey, why not let's build some pubs over time? I don't think anyone ever agreed to that. I think what happened was pubs just sprung up and went, oh look, we can make some money from these sailors. So these places, such as that corner building there, are hotels / pubs. So they take people in and they keep them for the night or however long they need to stay for. So these are quite good money spinners down here. As I did with Nelson's Lane, this is quite an eclectic collection of buildings. So you can see I had to go through and plan it out by actually building the walls out of wool first. And that gave me the idea of what this place would look like, because it's on a sloping gradient on a bend. It's not the easiest place to build, but I'm happy I left it till the last sort of section because my skills in diagonals were not there when I was building the earlier stuff. So you can see on screen my inspiration for this area again is a nice bit of Lymington. Apart from this building, so this is the Walhampton Banking Group HQ, and it's kind of an homage to one I built in the first season of Let's Build Walhampton, which you guys can check out on the channel. It's a much more smaller building built on a very awkward plot, and I wanted to give it that nice classical look to it because the building itself is like a Georgian townhouse, but it's like a really early Georgian, even Baroque it could be. I just wanted to give it this nice big cupola on top to make people go, ooh, that's clearly an important looking building such as a bank. There will feature some more buildings similar to that around town because I feel like any Georgian town just needs some domes, some cupolas, something going on to give it a nice classical feel to it, because that's the thing, there's quite a few in Lymington. The church itself, St Thomas's Church, has one of those built on top of a Norman church, and I may even do more of those throughout the town. There is one I have planned for the CDP, so keep an eye out for that. So we're filling in the backs of these gardens around here on Key Hill. You can see a large empty space over to my left where I put some trees in. That will feature some townhouse gardens in episode 3 when we get round to doing that. Moving on now to some of the final buildings in town. This is just a very large, squarish townhouse built for another big merchant or a captain who lives around here. But next door is one of the largest pubs in town. This is the Solent Inn, and it sits right at the end of the Key Hill, and it was built to look just like this view here on screen, again from Lymington, as it's just one that I've always looked at and gone, ooh, that's really, really nice. So moving on now to the final buildings in town. These are just a couple of warehouses built along the quay. One of them houses a brewery for the local pubs. As you know, there's quite a few around here, so why not build a brewery just behind the pubs? And a few little touch-ups to the quay there, making the jetty a bit longer. And this is the final building. Now there's one thing I neglected to build in the video, / ran out of time because this video was taking forever anyway, but I will show you them now. These are the Solent class of the passenger ferries. So I've built, well, one of them, but copied and pasted 3 around. So you'll be able to see on screen now the PS Solent, which is the main ship and namesake of the Solent class. We then have further out in the river the PS Lymington, which is just stopped waiting to get into the pier while this one's coming back down the river. And then out further at sea, if you guys cast your minds back to episode 0 with Hurst Castle, there is one passing out in front of Hurst Castle. So there we have it, guys. It's now time to jump into that cinematic. I will join you at the end of that to say our goodbyes, so enjoy. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed watching that as I enjoyed making it. So that was a total of 78 buildings I've added to Walhampton, and I can't wait to carry on building this town out in episodes 2 through till 10. So guys, make sure you check out Exploring Walhampton when that drops soon, as that'll be a great in-depth look around the entire town with a special guest. I wonder if you guys can guess who may be joining me. But anyway guys, remember, get inspired, get building, and I'll see you next time.